Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Hope you guys are doing well out there.
Always indeed.
Please do subscribe both channels, as the last one we did was talking about major escalation in the Ukraine was striking deep into Russia. And we were talking about sleepy cellular units over on Evolutionary as well. Now, they did it again. Check this out, guys. Check this out. Evolutionary Energy Arts, and it's got the EEARTS symbol. At Evolutionary Energy Arts. Isn't that funny? Because, yeah, I just noticed that. There you go. So, and, yes, we are starting to put together ideas for a third channel, which is going to be for those that just want to unplug, just totally unplug from all the stuff that can cause anxiety, where we will not touch anything that will cause any anxiety at all. Just bring peace.
I know. Can we just talk about cute little animals the whole time?
Maybe we could squeak some in.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, that's curious. And if you do see that you have numbers after your name, it's part of a new system where you see everybody gets a tag, what was the word they were? A handle is the word they used. Everybody gets a handle. So yours might be Karen 5512, Joe 9918. Again, I think it has something to do with that social blank score.
It's all about making you socially acceptable.
Yes, and you're socially acceptable here,
Indeed.
guys.
Yes, you are.
Yes, we accept aliens, we accept giants, we accept all the above.
We do have quite a wide variety of acceptance.
Get this. About 65 feet of foreshore disappears during a swarm of earthquakes at Taupo in New Zealand. This is curious to say the least. And I asked Cindy, what's your feeling? Because there's been... And let me pull up the USGS while I'm thinking about it. I got off on a tangent there. We're going to be looking at Earth changes and a little bit of our ancient history. And, again, some of the discoveries that they're making now, which they are just simply, they're just constantly doing damage control. So let us see what we have over here. Well, we're not seeing any swarms over in New Zealand. That's interesting. They're not showing nothing. Well, hey, it is what it is. We do have some quake activity going on. 87, let's just zero in. 37, okay, 37 on Hawaii. As you can see, many are centered over Mauna Loa. Quite a few over around the Kilauea area as well. But yeah, if we're talking about Taupo, that basically, it does get me very, very alert, to say the least. So about 65 feet of foreshore in this area disappeared after a strong and shallow 5.6 quake, numerous aftershocks. Now, that was at the end of November. It's not showing any activity at all right now. But you can see a lot of the beach has just disappeared. This is one that can bring us very large quakes. In fact, definitely what we saw in Tonga with cooling off the atmosphere, if this was to go in a big way, well, we would be in trouble with the food production. Not that we're not already in trouble with the food production in the southern hemisphere and all over. As we know, there's so many different facets to what we're watching unfold right now. And what's your feeling when you feel into this volcano and this area?
It feels full. It feels bursty. It feels like something could tip it. But at the same time, I feel some kind of a presence wanting to hold back, to not allow anything major to happen. So there's definitely some kind of weird energetic tug of war that I am feeling.
And again, what we are seeing, it's pretty obvious things are ramping up as far as earth change related, but we are still getting that this is not necessarily the greater part of this, and why we're seeing a definite increase in activity in many different areas, again, is more of a technical thing, a technological thing, so to speak. Hi, AI. Stromboli volcano erupts and triggers a tsunami. Now, this tsunami was about 1.5 meters. It was a 4.6 magnitude quake, as being the largest one near the Aeolian Islands. You know, it seems like everything is going right now. It really does. You had about 30 people had to leave their homes in the area. As you can see, this is kicking off. Again, do I think it's going to be a case that we're going to get warmer or we're going to get cooler? It feels like we're going to have more extremes between record colds and record highs in certain locales. But as the guides have said with us the whole time, they said, don't worry, you're not heading into a complete ice age overnight. It's not a day after tomorrow scenario. But it is going to tend towards getting colder. And that is more of a problem for growing food than the opposite.
It is, and there's that pendulum is just going to continue to swing. But we have time to adjust right now.
So again, this is off the coast of Sicily and the Mediterranean, and yes, some small tsunami waves were registered there. Now, Semeru, you have many villagers and villages evacuating, and it did bury entire towns in ash, and this is in Java. This was the largest eruption on record, is what we're finding here. This is the largest volcanic eruption since record keeping began. And this one generated a 12-mile-long pyroclastic flow in addition to the towering plume of ash. And the ash subsequently rained down on the island and brought basically a blackout to it. Oh boy, yeah, now it just seems like this volcanic activity is starting to kick up in many locations, and it's kind of building and holding. What goes off is staying active for the most part, and we're seeing this build in many different locations. So, that long cold winter scenario. And that is something too. When I put search, when I put the hashtags in there, it gets demonetized. So there's something to that. Again, it gets demonetized. It's not suitable for ads. Now, usually earth changes are okay, but there's certain phrases they don't want you using. And it seems like a lot of the phrases that are used by politicians, then we cannot use ourselves, or we get, we get spanked on the wrist or spanked on the butt.
Something, it's just something like, oh, is this Operation Long Cold Winter? Something like that. Yeah, definitely vocabulary words that I probably shouldn't even state.
Sakurajima, strong explosions, volcanic lightning. Do you see a pattern going on here? Japan's to the north of Indonesia. Indonesia is closer to the equator. The areas around the equator with large volcanic output, large ashfall that goes up into the higher levels, those are the things that are going to cool the entire globe off the quickest. But we got a lot going. I'm just, we're still wondering, when's the Pacific Northwest going to take off as well? So Sakurajima, and we had a strong and shallow 6.0 quake off the southern coast of Java as well. Now, this is Ring of Fire, and I can't think of any place that gets hit any worse than Indonesia as far as that goes. And, yes, okay. Strong shockwave, huge roar, reported in Gran Canaria. Now, we were talking about this. We were saying, okay, it was a meteor. They reported it was a meteor coming in. An asteroid made its way into, the atmosphere, and it impacted or blew up in the air. This was the original reports, and that's what that shockwave and huge roar was. And then we had, no, it was just sonic booms. Well, now they're going back to the meteor that impacted the ocean water. And this is, again, in the Canary Islands. And we've had discussions like yesterday. We were again talking. You see activity in Mauna Loa, right? There's something called the Helena slump, and the Helena slump could be a disastrous thing if it does go. And it's basically an area that could crumble and cause a major Pacific tsunami. Over on, in the Canary Islands, then we have that same situation with La Palma, and we're seeing these interesting activities over in these areas in the Atlantic and the Pacific that could cause major tidal wave action. And again, will it be natural? Will it be induced? Will we know? We may never know. But regardless, the impact would be massive on the areas around both the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. It is. And with something like this, they just can't get their story straight because the media doesn't seem to understand really what's going on behind the veil. And what I picked up is that this is some kind of war. This is part of a ship. It's a thing. We're seeing the very, very, very beginnings of something that's going on above our heads that we're not allowed to know about, and the media is never going to get it right.
Again, what we are in is, if you look at the biblical term, we wage not a war against flesh and blood. Well, we do wage a war against flesh and blood, but it's also against the
principalities.
I'm getting tongue-tied all the time. It's got to be my old age and senility coming
It's just adorable. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't usually get so tongue-tied, but I've been tongue-tied a lot lately.
No, sometimes when people are rising up in vibration, they're crossing paths, like energetic paths, and it really can kind of make the brain seize up sometimes, but you're going up in vibration. So I want other people to know that too. It's a good opportunity to throw that in there. If you're glitching, you're going up in vibration in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I should glitch more so that people could get more of you.
He's adorable.
So first it ripped the sky over La Palma, La Gomera, and Tenerife at great speed, like lightning that emits colors with shades of green and red, and then caused such a roar over Gran Canaria that it was heard from many areas of the island before crashing into the sea, causing astonishment among the islanders, who at first didn't know what it was. Scientists confirmed it was a meteorite, which, although it's not the first to fall in the archipelago, there are no precedents for what happened yesterday. Yeah, again, this war is a war that is happening on 3D, 4D. 4D is the primary battleground, and it's basically, up to the very edge of the lowest parts of 5D. So it is something that is involving many different places. As we had said before, and we shared with you guys, we might think that humans come from the Pleiades, but that's not the case. And in fact, you'll see the Pleiades are younger stars. Humans, at least as far as we know, in this particular galaxy and all, we come from the area of Lyra, which in many cases has been decimated by this war, with entire planets no longer there at all, as they've been wiped out by this war. And humanoid beings, made their way into the Pleiades, and even the reason why we're even here to a degree can also be about reallocating surviving species in different areas because of this war.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much going on, and we're on the cusp of a whole new era coming in.
Yeah, where things are going to be revealed. It's going to be out in the open. Flash flood hits Johannesburg, leaving 14 people dead, 3 people missing. This is in South Africa. We see this all over the globe. Storm from hell, spike hailstorms. This is in South Africa. Yeah, they could hurt. Vietnam, deadly floods in the north central coast region. 14 inches of rain in 24 hours. This is the extremes that we're seeing over in Colombia. Landslide buries a bus, at least 33 people dead over there. We see landslides in many areas. Massive highway landslide. This is in Brazil as well. So where we have water, we have way too much. And even the plasma discharge that we call lightning kills 5 people in Mozambique as well. There's been many cases of that. And then let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It is December after all. Mammoth Mountain in California just got some major snow, almost 5 feet in 5 days. 15 biggest season snowfall totals for open resorts in North America happening right now. Record snow cap as well in the northern hemisphere, and plunging temperatures test French power grid. Macron says don't panic. It's going to be okay. He's in charge. He's got this. He's got this with Uncle Klaus. Don't worry. Trust us. Everything's going to be fine, they say. Trust us.
And they always tell the truth. We know it.
Yeah. It's a good thing his nose doesn't grow. So U.S. snowpack, as we were saying, historically high levels. Feels like Antarctica in Alberta. And we got climate lockdowns. Yeah, Brother Dave, who we love and cherish, and if there was some way for him to come over, we would love to have him growing and using that green thumb around us. Would love to have Dave for a neighbor. But he was just sharing how in a particular county there in the UK, they're going to divide it up into 8 zones, and you're only going to have like a 100-mile allotment for what you can drive in a year. This is going to go to that next stage. There was also, we were watching in Florida, where some people wanted to rebuild down there in southwest Florida, like Fort Myers area. And then there's zoning laws that have been put into effect more recent times. Some of these people have owned this property for decades. And they're not going to be able to rebuild because their lots are, if I remember, they were saying they're 50 by 60 and the zoning is 40 by 70. We're talking the same basic square footage. Yet it doesn't conform to the new rules, and they won't be able to rebuild their houses, and they're up in arms, and I don't blame them.
I mean, isn't that just the worst, sneakiest trick ever? And these controllers who make up these rules, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing this stuff under cover of darkness when people just aren't really looking, they aren't paying attention. And, it's control grabbing, and it's just dirty. It's just dirty. I mean, these people put out blood, sweat, and tears for this little slice of heaven, and now, for other reasons, they're being locked out of it. And, we know where that's going.
Well, we've already kind of seen, and Cindy's gotten info, that the PCC, put that up to a mirror, PCC, guys, do that backwards, has eyes on a lot of areas in Florida that they want to put some of their own family there. When the shift comes, because the shift is coming. Everything that we've seen that was done to the indigenous people over here, when the Europeans came over here, when the Spaniards came, the English came, the French came, and Portuguese came in South America as well. Everything that was done to the Native Americans, pushing them off their land, herding them into smaller and smaller zones, that's going to happen to us. That's what they have planned. That's what they are totally planning on doing. They're going to basically herd everybody that's now on the land into these small little zones, and then they will restructure it. Now, of course, they want to revert a lot of these areas due to their bleeding hearts for climate change. Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, we get the bigger picture. We clearly get the bigger picture, but you always have to say things. It's hard to say things in a veiled way, which we have to say because of the artificial intelligence point of things, and yet there's people that just don't catch it, and will say stuff like, you guys seriously? No, gosh, how many times do you got to say things? But I know that 99.5% of the people that listen to this are the regulars that listen every day because they won't let anybody else really see these videos. But yeah, this is exactly what's happened. Think about reservations, herding into reservations, herding into different zones. And then they're going to say that they're going to basically let these other zones heal themselves, let's just say, from all the climate damage. But this is part of that bigger picture that's going on. So yeah, absolutely, it is getting rough out there in many ways, weather-wise, at a time when more people, as we were just talking about, there might be a million people in the UK that can no longer afford their energy bills, and they're going to try to rough it. And yet you got restrictions, and if you look to California's restrictions and other areas as well, it just seems like it goes hand in hand with who's running the show there. If it leans more towards that left, you're going to have more restrictions. You need catalytic converters on your wood-burning stove, or hey, you can't be emitting those carbons into the atmosphere. Well, what's the alternative? We're going to freeze to death. Yeah, well, it's not my problem. You can't emit those carbons.
I mean, one thing that they seem to wear very well is that coldness of humanity. As long as they have their warm, cushy mansions and everything is warm, and all of their loved ones, those ones that they care for so dearly, they're all taken care of and have plenty of money and lush rides and never have an ounce of worry. As long as they're okay, that's okay. But as soon as they have to extend any of that energy off into another direction for, common people, what they perceive to be common people, that's when that cold veil just seems to drop right down.
Talk about a cold veil over in Siberia, 67 below Fahrenheit, 55 below Celsius. New Zealand's frosty start to summer, Arctic air to hit Europe this week, heavy snow coming, and is solar cycle 25 about to awaken? It's been interesting, really. It feels like everything was put on a little bit of a pause by the benevolent powers that be, because again, the sun is the great changer. And you guys might be familiar, we'll get into a lot more detail and talk again about the solar flash. We do get that there is a solar flash. We do expect that there will be a major solar flash that will definitely change things. We see it coming somewhere in the mid-2040s. That's the timeline that we've gotten. It could change. It absolutely could change because, everything is basically adding to the reality that we're experiencing. Everybody and everything is adding to the reality. So it's constantly ebbing and flowing and changing. It's like a tide. It's like the ocean. It's moving. Yeah, it's constantly in flow. All of a sudden something happens, an asteroid hits out of nowhere. Boom, it's going to change. Everything's going to change. But the sun, what we have gotten is, again, there's the 4 yugas. And we have ascending and descending. And I'll just bring it up again. Cycle of the yugas, ascending, descending. This is not ours, as you can see. This is from yogananda.com.au. So we have the Satya Yuga, the truth age, the golden age. And you see, you have a descending size and an ascending side. And so we go from the Satya to the Treta to the Dwapara to the Kali, back to the dark, then to what we would call the electrical or the bronze, then over to the silver, or we could refer to it as the mental age, and then to the golden age, the truth age, the Satya. And then we do it all over again. And it's divided, according to this, to basically 24,000 years, total 12,000 years each half. So when you look at this, I would guess that, what are we looking at here? Maybe 4,000 years, something like that, in total in darkness, in complete darkness, and then maybe we're looking at about, well, again, I'd have to really analyze that. I've been thinking about analyzing that and seeing where we get things from the guides. You got to also understand that this really does coincide to a great degree with the precession of the equinox. Not exactly, but quite a bit. And if we do think about the precession of the equinox, it might help to clarify things.
Well, yeah, this information is not easy to process, but it's good to know. It's good to understand, because this helps us on our journey, especially if you're going through an awakening there's this craving, this need, this desire to finally make sense of things, because you realize that everything that you were taught from the beginning is not true. So you want to find that truth, and it has to sit just so in your heart. And everybody's just a little bit different. So there's many different rabbit holes to go down, and every single rabbit hole is important. It's important. It has a purpose. So just follow them to the end, and it's part of our journey, and it's okay.
Gosh, and look at this too. So our North Pole star changes too. So in 26,000 years, the Earth wobbles one time. We really think about it because it takes 26,000 years, and this is the Earth in relation to the ecliptic. And, look at this. Draco, there, it's right there. Hey, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much understanding to it. It all depends basically on where we are. Here's a good diagram to give you an idea. Where are we? So, as we go around and we go through all these different energy zones, again, you have Vega. And, Vega is, I believe, in Lyra, isn't it? It is, I'm pretty sure. Vega's in Lyra. I'm sorry, I'm off on tangents.
Yes, he's off in tangent land, and we enjoy it too, every bit of it, because this is the part where everything gets most interesting and a story is formed.
Yeah, so Vega is in Lyra, again, and Lyra is where we basically come from. For the most part, again, we have to realize too, just because you're in this vehicle now doesn't mean you always look this way. Oh, no, that's not the case. Most of us have had many different vehicles, and we've looked very, very different at times. So as we go through these seasons, and again, we could equate the precession of the equinox, we could equate all this to seasons. We could equate the cycle of the yugas to seasons in so many ways. And we could say this is the winter, and this is the summer, and the spring, and the fall in so many ways again. Well, also what we've gotten is that the sun, the sun triggers our changes. It really does trigger our changes. Now that's obvious, and I think it is obvious for most of you guys out there. But what I'm getting at is there might be more than one solar flash. There could be series of solar flashes. There could be solar flashes as we go from one age into the next on a regular pattern. And in fact, the solar flash could be what triggers the next age. And then what it also triggers could be something that we call the mud flood, as well as just all the destructiveness on the planet again. So we'll have more on this that we want to share, but this is what we are getting. And when we look into our history, we can see that there's rapid change, man. There is rapid change that will maybe turn your stomach in so many ways, as it can be very, very intense. And we have an extremely rare December tornado. They call it a snow-nado in Shandong, China. And there's a video of that over there. Snow-nado. Great term they got there. This was fascinating, but, I got to wonder, why aren't they just thinking this is a ship? As you see, maybe it is something different. After both Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Nicole ravaged parts of Florida in 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, erosion from the storms has unearthed something previously buried in the sand of a central Florida beach, the Daytona Beach area. Daytona Beach shores, right? As you can see, it's wooden, but they say it's also got metal components as well. It's about 80 feet long. Sounds to me like a ship, but I don't know why they're not just coming out and saying it's a ship. Maybe it was something different. Maybe it was more of a permanent structure that was right there on the beach. Got to remember, too, during a full glaciation period, Florida is like 4 times the size it is now. And so they say they're not sure what it is. It's about 80 to 100 feet in length, and archaeologists are going to check it out. They've never had anything like this just pop up and be exposed. It was there under the sand. People have been walking over this, building sand castles. Little kids have been digging the china the whole time. They never found it, but now we have.
I know. What's up with that? I do sense activity around it at one point. I do sense, almost like a type of very white, very clean, very nice energy around it at one point. So we'll see. I mean, it has lingering energies with it that feel good. So we'll see.
So something festive, maybe. Yeah. Well, again, there are entire civilizations that are buried in the sands at time. Homo naledi may have lit fires in underground caves at least 236,000 years ago. Remnants of small fireplaces found in South African cave system, researchers announced, as you see here. That's a child's partial fossil skull. So sometime between 335,000 and 236,000 years ago, now this ancient hominid that we call Homo naledi, it could have used fire. And again, we keep getting this, we've been given this perception that these people were not advanced, where in reality, they were just different. I mean, they just lived in harmony, with their environment for the most part. Didn't have the same sort of structure or same thoughts and desires that we are brought up having in this age.
Everything just a little bit different, each age having its own personality, its own external influence. But when I see some of these skulls where there's obviously been some type of surgery, you got to just kind of pause at that and say, okay, well, what's the truth?
Absolutely. And then we got the mound builders, and I've been by so many of these in different areas in Ohio and on down. This is just a fascinating thing, again, constructed by a mysterious civilization that left no written records. Well, be purged anyway. The Hopewell ceremonial earthworks are a testament to indigenous sophistication. And so this is talking about a large network of hand-constructed hills spread throughout central and southern Ohio that were built as many as 2,000 years ago. Indigenous people would come to the octagon from hundreds of miles away, gathering regularly for shared rituals and worship. There was a sweat lodge, some kind of purification place there. And you can see right now, unfortunately, it's a golf course. But yeah, again, the civilizations, you could put 4 Roman Colosseums inside just the octagon right here. Stonehenge would fit within just that small circle, now serving as a putting green. 2,000 years ago, indigenous workers built these earthworks without modern tools, digging up soil with pointed sticks and hauling it in wicker baskets on their backs. And Cindy's laughing.
But of course they did. It's all just about, these rocks that they use to hammer things and chisel, and same with the pyramids too. But no, I mean, when I look at this energy and I feel this energy, there is something so incredibly sacred about it. It's like they were able to build themselves some sort of anti-aging type of area. It's hard for me to explain, but when you're within the boundaries of these energies, you're constantly being renewed. These beings lived a long time.
Yeah, and the pyramids, the Great Pyramids, over on Giza, they were let's just say they were brought here during the Golden Age. So when beings like Aset and Osir, or Isis and Osiris literally were on the planet. And, Aset is from the Sirius constellation. So this is again in a golden age period. People would come to the pyramids to be healed on a regular basis. People made like a pilgrimage to the pyramids to be healed.
Yes, there was big lines of people because they knew vibrationally when they walk through some of those things or go in some of those chambers, they are being healed, they're being renewed. And there's many people I talk to that I can tell they're just sound healers, and they have these past lives of working in the Golden Age with their own crystal rooms. And they know that there's something to do with sound. It just makes total sense to them. So it's their past life information.
Absolutely. So there's deliberate lunar alignments. Well, we thought deliberate lunar alignments, unlikely at Newark, because while the sun can be tracked over a year, complete lunar cycle takes 18.6 years. Even so, the lunar cycle proved to correspond to the position of the observatory mound at the observatory circle. There, one can watch the moon rise over the exact center of the octagon in the distance every 18.6 years. We see a lot of astronomical alignments, and the reason is, again, it's letting us know when we're going to go through these major Earth changes. That's why we have all these alignments. Yes, they're marking times, they're marking solstices, things like that, but they're also serving as a warning point. Prepare, because the big events are upon you when you get to these certain alignments.
And when we're not in a dark age, we're everyone's in the know. We all know what's going on. Unfortunately, we are in a dark age. We are being ruled under a controlling force, which is really, really irritating. But the good news is we have the ability to break out of that construct and go find things out on our own with each other's help.
So when the Europeans first came, what did they find? They found many beings and were even greeted by many beings that were 10 feet tall, 8 to 12 feet tall. This was something that is documented, and you have people drawing pictures of it and what the interaction looked like. And so, these giants do not look to be harmful in any way, shape, or form. They're having a friendly little conversations and trying to communicate. And you can see the baby is about the size of a full-grown adult. It looks like the baby's head's bigger than the male European that's coming. This is Sarah Winnemucca, daughter of Chief Winnemucca, chief of the Paiutes. On the right, you have 9,400-year-old spirit cave mummy, the oldest ever found in North America. And again, this gets us into thinking about Lovelock area, and thinking about the giants. Now, there was all different groups of giants, and there were some that apparently were to be avoided. Some that were what we would call very dark and had some negative tendencies, so to speak. And there were others that were very peaceful. Again, you can't lump everybody into one group, just like you can't with humans.
Right. I mean, there's just so many differences, and I think that's where people tend to forget. They think that, you can lump people together, but no, we have to look at everything like we look at ourselves. Everyone is just slightly different and beautiful.
So you see this big boulder, right? Well, this big boulder was placed on top of 3 small rocks. This was completely man-made. And, again, you find things like this. Ancient copper culture of the Isle Royale. Built a dolmen, left behind a pair of recumbent rocks. Mr. Bruns of Duluth identified both sites as man-made. Little Bear Dolmen tells the story of the Egyptian discovery of America during the Old Kingdom. America was rediscovered in the 4th dynasty. All Atlantic crossings were discovered in the 5th dynasty. It talks about a flood and a comet, which millions died as well. The reality is, again, the civilizations that we talk about, if we think about, again, Tartaria as being just over in Mongolia or in Russia or, whatever you want to view it as, it was a worldwide global civilization. Same thing with Atlantis. These were global civilizations. These cataclysms come very, very regularly. There's documentation of the different types of beings, many of them giants, some of them pygmies. As again, you could look at the representations of lions, right, being held like a putty tat. Again, look at a lion next to his handler there. And we have found mummies in areas that don't make any sense. There's mummies that have been found in China, red-haired, blonde-haired, Caucasian features. Our history is totally not what we've been told. And you see a reconstruction of what her face might have looked like there on the right. It's been completely covered up because they don't want us to understand. But, I love these old clippings out of newspapers. They're fabulous. They're priceless. Science is stumped by strange mummies in Utah. No possible explanation yet to how we can account for these red-headed, wavy-haired, Caucasian-looking mummies in Utah, thousands of years before Indians or even cliff dwellers. It's fascinating, and we've sensed out, and we've seen so much, and we've gotten so many different photos. We could see what we could still access. My old phone died. I still have the card, though. We still have that. But we found so much in Nevada and in areas where nobody is. I mean, nobody's living in these areas. Nobody's really transversing these areas. And we found, to me, what looks like concrete. And we also found those round marks that had to be made by something metal and extremely heavy, like there was some sort of huge building on these blocks that dug into a very hard stone. And we found, so much over there. And then just the energetic side of it, getting the impressions. Oh man, there's been such amazing technological warfare in Western America, Western United States. It's staggering.
There's so much that, right here in America that is not uncovered, and we're given this idea that, the pyramids are way over in Egypt and all these other places are way across the world. But no, there's some really amazing mega structures right there in the West that are being guarded to make sure no one can see. And it's just obvious when you look at some of those mountains. You can feel the energy of a previous existence, one that unfortunately was obliterated through a war. And that's the sad part of everything. It's like these wars have to be ongoing, and for what? It only benefits a certain few.
Absolutely, and there's evidence still among us. We have so many photos. We do have people that would be classified as giants that are more than twice as tall as other humans. And again, more depictions of colonial times encountering, perhaps here's somebody that's maybe 7.5 feet tall, with their little one. Little one almost looks like, I don't know, is he kind of furry-ish or? Yeah, I don't know. Very, very curious. And these are great. Was this just a hoax to basically sell a carnival or circus? Enter and see the great red-headed giant, or was it real? What do you guys think? Look at that. Wow, how big would this guy be? I don't know. Maybe 16 feet? I don't know. This is just fascinating. And again, where did all these bones go? Well, so many went to the Smithsonian, probably in the middle of the Atlantic, or vaporized.
Yeah. Well, they had to get a lot of that information away from prying eyes, because once we start realizing and we uncover so much about ourselves, well, the cat's out of the bag and there's no putting it back in the bag. And once people get a whiff of this information, it's like they dig and dig and dig. There's this hunger inside to need to understand, need to know the truth. So they've done as much as they possibly can about keeping it hidden, but you can just never hide all of this stuff all of the time.
Nope. You can't. And again, they have all this down to a science. So what will they say about us?
Right.
All right. What will they say about us? As always, guys, thanks for your support over on Patreon and Ko-Fi. We really couldn't do it without you guys. As always, much love. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.